The Republicans are doing an autopsy, and they're not calling it an autopsy because the last time they did one, they completely ignored it. We are seeing that at least the elected Republicans, are trying to reorient the conversation to hating immigrants and talking about the wall because that has been so successful for them. They desperately tried to make it about transphobia in this past election cycle. They failed. You can see the spending, at the very least in Michigan, which is where they got destroyed. They spent a tremendous amount of money trying to push transphobia. It didn't work. One of the things that they're also, so they're going to go back to their roots, which is... Roots is probably not even it, but they're going to go back to their safe space, which is attack immigrants, attack people of color, and you can't quite do it exactly like that unless you're Donald Trump. You need to do sort of like second order. What is the second order way of you to express your racism, your xenophobia, your transphobia? It is to talk about wokeism. And here is Fox News on the beat.
In the last month, I'm not taking any prisoners today, Harris. Cross Mount Holyoke off the list.
Oh my goodness.
And cross all these other liberal Northeast colleges that are indoctrination factories off the list. Look, I want my girls to go to school and get a great education and prepare for the world of work. But I also want them to learn how to thrive in healthy relationships, be patriots, like you mentioned, be good partners, good spouses. I want them to form relationships based off of love, not off of hate. And so these schools push this hate agenda. It has to stop. No Mount Holyoke, no Brandeis, none of these schools. I'll homeschool them.
Heretofore, Holyoke. Quickly, because I want people to know how early you've gotten started. How old are your babies?
2 years and about 5 months. So I'm not messing around, Harris.
So he's got a toddler and a 5-month-old.
We're not messing around.
Oh, I take you seriously. Emily.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So the guy's not going to send his 2-year-old and his 5-month-old to
Mount Holyoke,
to Brandeis. Very Jewish university, actually. Probably one of the only colleges in the country that is named after a Jewish person. I don't know if that's 100% true. Well, I guess you have in New York, you have a couple others, right? Like but Brandeis is a pretty prominent one.
And Mount Holyoke,
former women's school. And so there he is. They're teaching an ideology of hate, which is wokeism, which, let's to be clear, is being aware of the systemic oppression that various members of our society have suffered, is teaching hate.
Now, Todd Pirro wants his girls to learn or to form relationships based on love of hate. Right? That's how they'll come together. And
also, it also sounds like he's got a little bit of twinge of patriarchy fundamentalism in there, so they know their place in their relationships.
And there's this faux class politics and regionalism thing where he talks about, these Northeastern schools. First of all these people are probably from the Northeast.
Yeah.
But guess where I was exposed to Marx was at Minnesota State University in Moorhead, Minnesota.
Gross!
Right? And I was also exposed to Ayn Rand there. And I was able to make my own decisions, which is what they're afraid of, really.
You were indoctrinated with the first part, you gotta say. But you see what liberal arts is, why they're so opposed to it. It's a threat for them in terms of funneling people into jobs where they can be more productive and that serve the economy, as opposed to thinking critically about the world or being an English major. That's why they have such derision for it, is because it's like a systemic threat if more people are involved in humanities.
Well, there's also a concerted effort to make education a commodity. And therefore, and the way they do this, you notice he said, to go and get a job out of college. Now, of course, everybody wants to get a job out of college for the most part, but the idea that the reason why we educate people is specifically to become workers is the way that they attempt to commodify education, as opposed to we are trying to make good citizens. We are trying to educate people because that is an educated person has, in many respects, a more fulfilling life because it allows them more opportunity to explore things, just intellectual things, non-intellectual things, and to be better citizens.
Mm-hmm.
It's to
not
invest in
just
your mind. And previously, it was only rich kids who were allowed to do that.
Exactly.
And it's increasingly becoming that way again.
And that is what this whole movement, where you hear, like very often coming from libertarians, like education, like, you know, like we know everybody doesn't need to go to college. Well, that's true. Not everybody needs to go to college, but everybody who's interested in going to college should be able to go to college.
Yes, what they mean is some people should have to work immediately after high school, but they say not everyone should go to college because they're trying to like play the class warrior again.
Exactly. And if we educate too many people, it will be harder to have an underclass of people who will be limited in you know, what they can do with their lives. You know, they can't choose to be doctors or lawyers or teachers or architects or, you know, whatever it is. Social workers, therapists. They got to, you know, be delivery people, you know, and certainly if people want to do that, that's fine. But everybody who wants to be able to get educated should be not prevented from being educated because of money. But if you commodify education, then it's really hard to sort of explain why it shouldn't be a function of money in the same way that, like, you know, like a Lamborghini is a function of money. You know, you don't hear people going like, everybody should have a Lamborghini. And that's because it's a commodity. And it fits into the sort of the way that we have been taught to perceive whether we're deserving of something is a function of how expensive it is. And the more they commodify education in this way, make it as if it's actually just an investment on a return that you can measure against other, you know, future dollars, it becomes a way to exclude people based upon our system of capitalism, which, you know, creates a hierarchy based upon how much money you have, period.
John Schwartz of The Intercept, I've cited this before, but he has a letter from 1970. Roger Freeman, a key educational advisor to Nixon, then working for the re-election of California Governor Reagan, spelled out quite precisely what the conservative counterattack was aimed at preventing. We are in danger of producing an educated proletariat. That's dynamite. We have to be selective on who we allow to go through higher education. If not, we will have a large number of highly trained and unemployed people.
Never in writing again. Never put that in writing again. All right. I'm so tempted to take one more phone call. There's a lot of anger coming out of
No, there's not a lot of anger. It just, I have a dermatologist appointment at 3:30. So.
There you go. All right. No more calls, folks. It's gosh darn it, it's 2:41 already.